All right, Pat, we ready?
He's got to hit the red button.
All right, let's do it.
Can I just put Jack way over there in the corner? He's got his own table now, and all three of us are on one? What the heck's up with this?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting for March 24th, 2017. Tonight, before we begin our regular meeting, I'd like to ask Pastor William Lewis from the Presbyterian Church to lead us in an invocation.
Thank you. Heavenly Father, we thank you that we get to be part of this incredible town celebration. We're here celebrating in our 20th year, and we're here tonight because we care about celebration. And with controversial issues on the table, we ask that you would release your spirit into the room, that you would give us insight as we work together to make decisions and find solutions to keep our town the special home that it is to us. And let that spirit of love also move between us so that we can hear one another and respect one another. And ultimately, once again, let celebration be calm and remain that wonderful town that it is, that we enjoy, that we call home. So put your blessing on us tonight and on our town always. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much. All right, so now let's begin with the owner's comment period. I have several people who have signed up to speak. Dan Haskett, you're first.
Good evening. Dan Haskett, 1438 Resolute Street. I have a really few brief things. I just want to express, I watched the workshop from earlier in May where you worked on the RFP, and I was prepared to be like, I don't know what I was prepared for. I was prepared for the worst based on some things I read, and I was actually really pleasantly surprised, and I just wanted to thank everyone. I was really impressed by the level of due diligence everyone did. Dennis, I guess, I'm not sure if he's here, but everyone, I was really impressed, and it made me really proud to see all the work that the board members have done talking to other communities and all the different angles you were looking at. So thank you for that. I'm sure it's a lot of work and you have more work planned, so I'm sure it's kind of a long and thankless task. I'm a big believer in just either doing the due diligence or doing the RFP, regardless of which way it goes. I think it's really valuable. It can be very valuable in clarifying what your goals are and what we're actually doing now with the current vendor. So I think it's a good task, and I just wanted to commend everyone for taking it on head on. I would hopefully just like to ask you to consider drafting, something that you vote on, a memo to enter into the record to just explain the reasons why you go whatever way you end up going. I think looking back on things 3 and 4 and 5 years later, sometimes it looks like a black box to residents. We don't know what was done and for why. So if you could come up with a majority statement of why you did what you did, it might be really valuable for your future progeny on the board. To just understand what decision you made and why, so you don't have like a fog of memory and confused recollections years later. So I would ask you to consider that and maybe find a way to squeeze that into your schedule. I just think, secondly, I live in Spring Lake, and I saw on the agenda tonight, and it's been on the agenda to discuss some of the landscape issues. I think residents of the townhomes, and I'm in a townhome that faces Celebration Boulevard, we're especially just getting frustrated as we've heard that there's structural issues with what David Weekley has installed. There's issues with the landscaping, the plant tree selections. And I would just ask you and challenge you to set a hard date that all the owners that have been paying dues now, some of them for up to 3 years, can have on their calendar that we'll be at the same minimal acceptable community standard that everyone else, all our neighbors, enjoy. And even if it's longer than we might like, I would just challenge you to set a date, whatever it is, if it's 6 months from now, where we can hold you folks accountable for that date. I understand there's challenges that are out of your control, but I think everyone has been working hard on it. I know that people here at Town Hall are working on it practically every day, but there's just a lot of hard feelings at this point with the length of time. There's people who have been paying dues for 3 years and have never had resolution. And at this point, construction phase 3 is winding down. Every day I see a new number drop off the board, and they're getting really far into their last construction. And also, my third item just was for future development. I know there's a lot of issues you're handed over from David Weekley. I know there's a limited set of tools you have to deal with that, but I would just start thinking now of creative ways you can either use the charter or just dragging your feet, or new fees or new title transfer fees, something to have some leverage so you don't get handed something that you don't agree with, so that the community doesn't have to take on builder-led deficiencies. As a buyer going into David Weekley, I had no idea that we were getting into problems. And I need 10 seconds if I could have it. I started riding my bike a lot more. I've been in the habit now of sending complaints to just about all the vendors in town. The one that I have not had to complain about, they're perfectly behaved on the road and just ideal companions, are the CCMC trucks and the CROA trucks. So I just wanted to express thanks for that. So thank you.
Okay. Lee Moore, you're next. No. No, I've got
Thank you. Not dressed very well for today's meeting, but I have to go somewhere from here. But thank you. I wanted to say a couple things. I actually didn't even plan on talking about the RFP issue, but I'll just address it at the end. Comcast, I want to thank Steve and the board putting a lot of pressure on and pushing Comcast to try to do better. Just the other day, we had an issue in Lake Evelyn, or a resident came to us about an issue and thought that if you look, you'll see the markings from where they're actually, nobody can make heads or tails exactly where it is, but they were concerned where the boxes would go. Steve immediately contacted them, the resident contacted me and said it worked out very well. They compromised on Lake Evelyn, on Wisteria Lane. So I think that for residents that are watching and residents that are here, they're going to be, Comcast is going through town, and we'll make best efforts to try to fix any kind of issues. Of course, at the end of the day, Comcast is responsible for putting things back in the place that they were before in the same condition, but also knowing where the boxes go and knowing where we can figure out where that is. Right now, they're lining East Lawn, which is another big step, so we have to make sure that that's done correctly every step of the way, step ahead of them. And I'd like to thank the board and Steve for working on that. The next thing is a kind of request. What you'll see in a lot of places for recreation, you'll see water bottle fillers that you'll see in airports and everywhere else. I'd like to request that we use some of the recreational amenity funds to add that to this building, into Heritage Hall, and possibly the pools. I mean, years ago we talked about it, and we added AEDs, we added recycling. This is, I think, the next evolution that I think we should probably be thinking of and just get it done. The parents that are here would appreciate it, and it's something we should put on our list. Lastly, I just did want to bring up the RFP issue, and I think because I'm very close to this and because I went through it one time, whatever you decide, obviously, is gonna I would support. Either way, I know you're doing your due diligence, but I just want to remind residents who have been posting on the front porch, it's like a $2 million contract and everything. When you break down the staff costs and everything else, it's not really a $2 million contract. It's really about a $300,000 contract. When you think about the cost, it's really mostly staff costs. So if you really want to save money, you would have to cut staff costs. It's the bulk of the entire thing. So no matter what company is going to come in, you're going to have staff costs. So at the end of the day, as somebody might come in and bid a little bit less on staff, but you're going to have to be concerned with their staff against your staff. And you're only talking about $300,000 from estoppel and anything else, and that's really CJC paying about $93,000 of it. So when you really think about how, if you broke down the contract, which I've done years ago, we did this, is that if you compare anybody, you're going to have staff, you're going to have Parks and Rec. If you decide to get rid of those things, that's how you can save money. I don't think anybody's even interested in that. So anyway, just wanted to just point that out. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Lee. All right, Pat, you're next. You put a check mark by your name. Did you want to speak? No. Okay. All right, Bill Grindell.
Thank you, and I'm here to talk about the RFP. And I'm speaking as an owner, but I'm also speaking by the fact that I'm also a professional consultant in the real estate business and a former property manager and director of property management. And I think that kind of management we're getting, whatever I see, I think I'm very happy with, but it doesn't remove the need to bid it every now and then. Every 3 to 5 years, I think it needs to be bid, just for the sake of due diligence on everybody's part. And yes, I don't have any good details. The budget we get doesn't really tell us a breakout on how the fee is assumed or anything, and there may not be any fee schedule that's going to be giving anything that's going to be any savings. but the act of bidding makes everybody try a little harder, focus a little bit better. I'm in the same position where I've got contracts run out. I have to rebid them for my own work. And it makes me think more about what I'm doing, and it brings the attention of the client, to the fact that, we're working for them and we're doing something for them. And I would gladly volunteer if you decide that you want to do an RFP. I'll gladly volunteer to assist if anybody wants me to help, because I've issued RFPs in the last few months for property management. Nothing this big, but for half a dozen developments here, half a dozen developments there, and I'm quite familiar with the process. So, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jeffrey Mallon.
Thank you. My name's Jeffrey Mao, and I live at 1114 Croton Place. And I came tonight to speak just on the petition, Keep Parking on Our Streets, that we've had going on for 2 months now. Petition has been signed by 1,200 people now, and I think it hasn't changed much in the last month, and I don't think we're quite doing enough to get the word out. And I'd ask this board to see what you can do over the next 15, 20 days to get the word out a little stronger, either in the paper or on the front porch or however we can do it. I gave a tour, actually 4 tours of Celebration this 2 weeks ago for the AIA convention, and many of the master planners that worked on Celebration came here and really enjoyed the place. They are duly impressed with the quality of this community. They have read the petition, have signed the petition. They agree with the petition. It is an important issue, and we should not drop that. And I'm asking this board to actually also work with the CCDD to coordinate an effort so that we can physically take the petition down to the county for a commissioners meeting and hand it to them. Nothing has been done with it yet. We've gotten all these signatures. I'd love it if we could get up to 2,000 signatures. That would be ideal. But I think we really need to push a little harder to get more signatures on the petition. I don't think everybody knows about it, and I haven't seen it published anywhere, so it'd be great if we could get that out there.
Very briefly, to your comments at the last CDD meeting, one of the things that we had agreed to do was send an email out to everybody and ask for them to sign the petition.
Okay, great. Does that go community-wide email?
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. Okay, thank you.
Just a direct email, right?
Yeah. All right, Mike Jackson, you're next.
Mike Jackson, 413 Sycamore Street. First, let me acknowledge the residents that are here tonight and some that couldn't make it that are in support of the RFP for the HOA contract. And let me say that the process of an RFP in this case I don't think is about saving money. I think it's about best practices, quality service, and accountability. But the RFP is in no way a commentary on the performance of CCMC. It is about an objective process that will reflect the fiduciary responsibility of CROA, the CROA directors, that they have to the residents to make a decision of this magnitude. And as Dan said, I think the May 2nd workshop was a very good session. The concerns with the comments that a couple of board members made at the end that would lead to shortcutting or killing the integrity of the RFP process and not assessing the best practice in the industry as a contract renewal standard. This contract, we can talk about the level of it, but when you write the contract, it'll be for the staff and for the fees. This contract will represent the largest contract the board will sign in their tenure. And to not conduct an RFP would seem to be in conflict with the first paragraph of the Board of Directors' Standards of Conduct to the community. You certainly solicit multiple bids for much smaller contracts and likely have at least 2 bids for all work that is authorized. So the people that I speak for collectively feel strongly that an RFP is needed to ensure we have best practices in the HOA industry and incorporate it into our contract. We have no idea what clauses for performance and accountability are in a current industry contract. We're still operating with a Disney-authored contract from the year 2000 that has never been updated other than the addendums for the financial renewals. A competitive bid process would give us benchmarks in the areas of service and quality. If you look back at the contract that we're under right now, it was a 5-year contract and was approved on February 26, 2013. There's a video available, and I went back and looked at the board has seen communication to that. It was done 8 months prior to the expiration of the prior contract, and it was done without an RFP. We're currently in the 4th year of that 5-year contract that expires at the end of next year. In the discussion on the video, board members stated the reason for an early renewal was to lock in pricing, and also, quote, "It is our understanding one of the reasons for working this way was that we are well under industry pricing." Again, I want to emphasize this isn't about pricing, but in fact, the monthly management fee went up by 8.1% in the current contract, and the payroll, now a flat fee, went up by 20% from 10% to the current 12%. In addition, at a recent meeting, Pat Wasson shared the payroll burden rate, and there was a comparison between 2013 and 2017. The headcount numbers showed an increase in this time period from 42 employees to 51 employees, a 21.5% increase. This was made up of 5 additional part-time and 4 full-time employees. This has hardly been a transparent situation for the residents or what is termed locked-in pricing. I'll finish quickly. Your 2017 CROA Board of Directors strategic plan under number 5 states, use metrics to make fact-based decisions. An RFP for the HOA contract is that metric. That will allow you to make a sound decision in the areas of service, quality, and value. And the fact that you go to an RFP does not mean that CCMC is going to be replaced. It just causes CCMC to bid, much like anybody else. We appreciate you listening to the opinions and thoughts of the residents that are interested in the future of our community. In closing, we would request the meeting time for the workshop on June 6th is moved from the morning to the evening. Obviously, morning times, many people can't attend. Many people are interested in attending. So we'd ask you to consider moving that to allow more interested residents to attend. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, PJ Cartwright.
Can we consider that the movement, or when can we consider that, or how would we do that?
We'd have to get to the other board members and see what they have on their agendas as well. Okay. We've got several
Just
days.
do it by email, or?
Yeah, let's do that.
And if we have a majority that are willing to do it, we can do it. Okay.
Done.
PJ Cartwright, 1000 Via Capri, 102. That's in Siena and in South Village. I'm probably going to burn every goodwill I've created between myself and the board members in the last 7 years tonight, but I have to speak from the heart. I was very disappointed when I watched 3 times last month's meeting that I was unable to attend because of a family emergency. Why was I disappointed? Because the board chose to not have live streaming of the workshops. When I first came to Celebration, I came to all the board meetings. I'm probably in the top 10 of owners who come to board meetings on a regular basis and always have. If you exclude board members who have to be here, then I'm probably in the top 10 as far as my attendance. And I try and stay informed. When I first came here, I was very confused because it was item agenda 1, da-da-da-da-da-da, move, second, any discussion, no, passed, thank you, item number 2, and I went, wow, these have got to be the smartest people in the world. Just from reading the topic, they have all this inside information and can make a decision. And then I learned about workshops. And then I learned about the tabs. Now, fast forward to today, in the last 7 years, we've done a much better job of informing and being transparent. We now have a detailed agenda. We have the tab information that any owner can go out and see. But there are still a lot of us who cannot attend workshops because they work. Even though Disney created a, quote, perfect town where we all are neighbors and get along and we walk and we talk and we sit on our porches, the fact of the matter is we live all over the world, we work all over the world, and we're not available at those times. And not allowing that, I think, is a disservice. I think the minutes are much improved thanks to staff. However, with this particular input, I would ask that you amend the minutes that are being presented tonight. If you read them, you'll read Eric's motion that talked about approving a dollar amount for videotaping and live streaming workshops and board meetings, which passed. Then the second motion said to post the recordings of the workshops within 3 days. One would get the inference that That's in addition to live streaming because it was mentioned twice in the minutes. But that is not what happened at the last meeting. And I think it's misleading to owners, and I would ask that you correct the minutes. And I would also further ask that the board consider readdressing this. We have over 4,000 owners. We elect 7 of you to represent our interest. Any 4, like tonight, is a quorum. By law, you have 48-hour notice. You can give me, I can be in Alaska and find out a meeting, and I've got to come all the way back here within 48 hours if I want to attend that workshop and find out what's going on. I think that's unfair. I think we deserve more transparency. Thank you for your time.
All right, Brian Kinsel.
Hi, Brian Kinsel, 1114 Rush Street. I was at the May workshop, and I'd like to thank you. I actually thought it was very good. I thought the board was very diverse in their opinions, and I thought it went very well. At the end, the decision to do or not do an RFP was definitely up in the air. My concern is if we don't do an RFP, I think I agree with the first gentleman who spoke tonight. We need something at the end that tells why you did what you did. And I would like to ask, if you're not going to do an RFP, get a consultant who understands Florida very well, who is independent of CCMC. So at least as a resident, we've got an objective, independent person saying this is fair and equitable by Florida standards. And that's my request, because at the end of the day, I have no bone with CCMC. I like the town. It's the process of how we say this is fair if we're going to have like a 5-year contract. That's my request, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Doug Dong, you said maybe?
I just wanted to say that I'm for that, but it's been covered by everyone so nicely, so I don't want to repeat, but I just want to cover for IFP.
All right. Eileen, you said maybe as well?
Eileen Barr, 1138 Mosaic Drive. The decision about an RFP or whatever process we use to make a decision should definitely not be an emotional decision. It should be based on facts. It should be reasonable and rational. To go back in history, and I'm sure there's always some historians who will tell me that I'm wrong, but one of the things that I always remind people is that our directly elected CROA board is not been a 20-year history. It's really relatively new. And unfortunately, I think the burden has fallen on this board to hopefully start, and it may only be a start, to start working up a procedure, a reasonable and rational procedure on how to deal with this issue of a contract that will continue to come due every couple of years. And I think to just put it off and say, things are good, and they are good, and I have no problems with them. But that's still, and a lot of people have mentioned it, and it's good. You're talking about working on some kind of, where are we going? What are our goals? What are we trying to accomplish? What are we looking at? And again, it's about procedures and policies that can start now and then can be used by other groups and other boards as the years go on.
Thanks, Eileen. All right, Cookie Kelly.
We got a paper.
Cookie Kelly, 691 Front Street. You know, when Disney wrote up this whole concept, I think you had to understand and you had to know, as you clearly did, that Disney didn't like democracy. Disney didn't like voters. They didn't want anyone to have any input. And clearly, they created this town in that image. We aren't quite Reedy Creek, but we're darn close to it, you know? So what has happened here is Todd Mansfield said in the very, very beginning, you know, what we're trying to do here, people don't want to vote on things. They don't want to vote on the color of the grass and the changing of the light bulbs. What they're doing is we are giving them democracy by government. And if they don't, they can never say they don't know what they were getting, because they signed on the bottom line of 678 pages in living Technicolor. And that's his quote of what they were getting. And so what they did was they put in CROA, Sonoa, CCMC, well, the management company, whomever that may be, and they left us to fend for ourselves. Now, when they created the management contract, clearly it encompasses every property in town. And in the beginning it did. I mean, even then they had, at some point, CCMC had all of the condominiums as well. So I can only say from my perspective, because I've had the opportunity, not that I wanted it, but I've had the opportunity to read every page of the DCCRO, every page of the shared use agreement, every page of the town center agreement, every page of everything. And there are a lot of little words in there. And having spent a lot of time with lawyers, they pay attention to those words, the commas, the and the must, the duties, the obligations. And I want to say that it's become glaringly apparent in the case of Town Center, where we fall under some Netherland, that it doesn't really work very well, that nobody has been able to figure out over the last years. Now, whether or not that's CCMC's fault, it's not being done, because I can tell you right now, just as a little heads up that none of you need, that this time next week we could very well have our first condemned building that will be evacuated, 660 Celebration Avenue. You can all go to the county meeting if you want, but that's where we are now. So I say, I'm foursquare with Mike. We need an RP for all those reasons. Not personal at all, but darn, this isn't working. Thank you. Wow.
All right, David Hulme.
Good evening, Dave Hume, 1109 Rush. Lots of friendly faces up here, but thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. And the RFP would be obviously a very, I think, beneficial process, and there's going to be a lot to learn both from the town and the administration side as we go forward. But if you do that, I want to caution against just solely basing any decision on price alone. A lot of times that might look good, and it might make everybody think that we're getting a deal, and then blows up in your face later on as other things occur. I can speak from experience with 11 years in the industry having that occur. So setting the proper criteria during the RFP process is critical. Having that as available for all of us to see also is important. But in the setting of that criteria, it's making sure that price is not the sole one. It's also expanding that criteria for various other functions, and also weighting them appropriately for how they best would be implemented and affect us as a town. That's it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you. Let me just say one thing, is that we have a meeting June 6th. That's our next contract workshop. I've sent the board about 25 pages of excerpted information out of this book. It's published by CAI, which is the Community Associations Institute. They provide a lot of the information we have as far as best practices and how associations are managed and things like that. They've also provided us a guideline of what we should do as far as going forward, whether we should go to an RFP or not. I will say, to Mike's point, we're not required to do an RFP. Florida Statute 723.055-2A1 says we don't have to do it. Okay. The biggest concern I have is that we have a great threat to our community by going to an RFP and by choosing the wrong company. We could put ourselves behind the eight ball very severely. If you look at most of the companies and most of the websites I've looked at, they say going to another management company is a last resort. Okay, you need to fix the problems you have with your current management company. Normally, there's two reasons to go out for a bid. One would be if the management company is not performing the way you want want them to do. It's not, the community's not being governed the way it should be, or whatever the case is. That's one issue. You want to address those problems with the management company and see how you can fix them. The second reason would be if the economics of the contract didn't fit. So those are the first two things we got to look at first. If we can't address it with the current company, then an RFP is appropriate. Okay? So that's all I have to say about that, and let's move on to the rest of the meeting, okay? Okay, so, Steve, can we verify the meeting's been properly noticed?
Yes, it was.
Okay, and verify we have quorum?
Yes, you do.
Okay. Let's please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, so Steve, I'd like to call the meeting to order.
No, I was sitting over there.
And the first order of business is to adopt the agenda. And a second, please.
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Nope.
Eric and
No.
Paul.
I seconded
Tim and Paul.
Tim and Paul.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now need to approve the minutes. Motion to approve.
We have corrections on the minutes.
Okay, the corrections were, I had them someplace.
You want to say what the corrections were?
I got him.
Since the minutes were posted in draft form anyway, they were never approved in that form. If,
It is.
This is the corrected?
Jack, I'd like to repeat for the camera. So what Rachel said was that there were some corrections that were made via email.
Okay.
Those have been made, and they're updated in your packet, so you'd be approving the correct minutes based on those corrections that your system made.
Yeah, I have them printed someplace.
Oh, and you
here.
highlighted the change. Thank you.
Yes, and Rachel highlighted the changes.
Cool. Okay.
All right, so the minutes as amended?
Yeah.
So moved. And Paul, second? All in favor?
Well, wait a minute.
We
wait a
have a
minute.
second.
We had a comment about
That's what I'm trying to find.
the one issue of the live streaming. So it sounded like that.
Is that at a workshop?
Where's the minute? What's that?
Is that
No.
a meeting or a workshop?
No, she's correct. I made a motion to approve the funding for both, but when the motion actually came on what we were going to do, we only motioned to live stream meetings and to post the workshops. So the funding was approved for both, but we didn't approve the action of the two of them.
So all we approved was the live. We didn't approve the live streaming of the workshop. We did.
Which is the money
Just the money to do it,
to do the
which you're going to spend either way.
Right, but you do have in the minutes where it says that David Anderson motioned to post the recorded video within 3 business days behind a password-protected website. So that is recorded in the minutes of what the action to be taken. Now,
My recollection of the meeting was that the live stream, that wasn't going to cost any additional money to go ahead and live stream the meeting.
I think you're correct, yes. So the live streaming, actually, the live streaming goes directly to a recording.
Okay.
What the additional costs were to be able to take, because the workshops were not going to be live streamed, it was to take them and do the decompressing and what we have to do, and then to save them behind a protected site, I believe.
No, because the reason for the cost was in order to be able to stream behind a wall, essentially. Because we can password protect a recording easily. That's not the problem.
some kind of weird
It's the streaming that we have to end up protecting.
I believe
Which
it
was
said-
the annual subscription to live stream the workshop. Okay, I see
Right.
what you're saying, because it says live stream the workshop in board meetings.
Right. That was the motion that was passed to approve the funding.
So the minutes are right then.
It doesn't reflect the way that you all voted, though, so it would need to be corrected to say that to live stream the CROA meetings and to record and store the workshops.
Yeah, that's the way the minutes should read.
So if we can approve it with that correction?
Yeah, any other corrections?
You got it? Cool. All right. I'll second that then.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I think that we just approved.
All right, committee reports.
Live stream.
No, nothing changed. We just added, we just clarified.
Okay, okay, all right.
All right, committees.
Good evening. It's a short update for ARC. 91 applications were reviewed by the committee this past month. 81 were approved and 10 were declined. The top requests by homeowners were landscaping, painting, and roofing. Reminder that the Sherwin-Williams new paint books are available at Town Hall for y'all to look at. You can even check them out for a deposit check that you get back when you return the book. A great tool we have on the front porch right now under community standards, if you click on there, is Google's Project Sunroof. And you can find it, like I said, by going under community standards and just clicking right on the word instead of any of the other options. But what happens is it pulls up Google's Project Sunroof, and you enter in your address, and then it does a search, and it pulls up a Google map, and it'll tell you how many square feet of available roof you have that they could do solar panels with, how much usable sunlight per year you could get, and then an estimated amount of savings over 20 years that you would save if you got solar panels. So it's a really neat tool. If you want to check it out, you can just put in your address and it kind of gives you some information. And then it directs you to some solar panel vendors out there according to where you live. Of course, we have our guidelines for solar panels. So you would submit an application and get reviewed. But it's a good start learning what kind of savings you can get in the community through solar energy. If you have any questions on the application process or need assistance compiling your applications, please come by Community Standards and we'll be happy to help you.
Thanks, Susanna. All right, we're up with covenants. Vaughn?
Vaughn Roberts, Covenants Committee. At the meeting in April, we had a report of 1,500 inspections and re-inspections that were conducted during the month. 78 resale and follow-up inspections were conducted. 138 ARC projects were reviewed. 53 emails were sent out for minor violations to try to get them corrected that way. 86 first letters went out to people for major items that needed to be fixed or multiple minor items. At the April covenants hearing, we heard 4 issues on 14 different properties, only one of which resulted in a confirmed fine this time. And sometimes what happens is many of these homes prior to our covenants meeting complete these items. So when that happens, which we are very happy about, we're able to dispose of that and not confirm a fine. Some other reasons are at the time of the meeting, by the time the meeting has started, the owner has notified Town Hall, Community Standards, that they are under a contract now to have these repairs done, and typically with proof of that type of contract, we'll set that aside. Sometimes we'll table those for the next meeting. Another reason that the fines may not be issued or confirmed in covenants is because on occasion we'll have some homes that have several violations. They may have 6. And by the time the meeting started, they've notified Community Standards that the 5 have been completed, and those have been verified as having been completed. So if there's one minor one left, a lot of times what we'll do is we'll either not confirm the fine or table it for the next meeting. The topic of the month for covenants is basic cleaning. A lot of, with the rains that are coming, a lot of the sidewalks, walkways are going to start getting slippery with the mildew that's been accumulating. So we recommend that the homeowners start maybe trying some pressure cleaning out there to prevent people from slipping and falling. The other thing would be good to start this time of year would be pulling weeds, cleaning up the mailbox. Maybe it just needs painted. Small things like that won't get the attention of the inspector when they come by. And all these maintenance issues, rules can be found under Chapter 6.1 under maintenance, repair, and replacement. Owners need to be aware that they're responsible for their fences being in good repair, the mailboxes being in good repair. and replaced if necessary with the types of mailboxes and posts that are approved by Celebration. A lot of times what we'll see are people putting their own boxes up that they'll find from, in the posts that they'll find from Lowe's or Home Depot, and those aren't the types that we use. So they need to contact Town Hall if they want to start replacing those, and they can get help there prior to spending money, then finding out that's not going to be acceptable. The inspector continues to drive through the community, conducting routine inspections every 6 weeks, and the inspector carries reference materials with her in her NEV, and residents are encouraged to go out and talk to her and maybe pick up some of these materials for her. Any questions, residents should contact the town hall prior to doing anything outside. It's always safe to make a phone call first, and instead of later on being told that what you've done has to be undone. Any questions?
Thanks, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, special events with JR, I guess, or Eileen, I'm sorry.
You're back. Yes, I am back, and we finally get to some nice things. This Saturday is the Memorial Day flag ceremony at Founders Park.
Where's Bill? Yeah, play it.
I was going to do Bill's part after.
Nobody can do it.
Nobody can do Bill's part.
Actually, Sal Negro was speaking.
Sal is? All right. Sorry, Eileen.
No problem. I'm waiting for Steve. We invite residents to come out for this lovely and moving tribute. The ceremony will start at 10 a.m. Are you going to add anything?
Well, I would only add that, if Bill was here, I'm sure he would say to everybody that this is a memorial service, and it's an hour and a half, and he would reach out and ask the residents, please come and attend this and learn a little bit about the flag ceremony and hear the speeches that are talked about, because it really is gives some historical value, and the kids can see the sacrifices that were made for our country, and it's an hour and a half of your time on a Saturday morning. It's a beautiful ceremony. It's one of my favorite events in town, so I would encourage everybody to attend. And again, Bill is great at public speaking, and he would do a much better job trying to make sure everyone's here, but I think it's very important that people come and attend this event.
And we probably have no...
And the Celebration CROA group will be there.
And great singing. And
It's definitely my favorite event as well, so it's...
And I get to command the color guard.
Very nice
and we
event.
probably have no nicer site than Founders Park, so it really is. And I know in our family, we talk about my granddaughter, for example, wants to hear about all her ancestors and relatives who served, and it's definitely something we should all really make an effort to get to. Then on next Wednesday, we will be heading to the South Pacific, or in this case, Lakeside Pool, for our Aloha to Summer event. The event runs from 5 to 8 p.m., and we will be grilling hot dogs, enjoying Hawaiian shave ice, and relaxing to the island tunes of Joe Magic. Following, we will surf over to the Great Lawn for an 8:30 p.m. showing of Moana. It sounds like a really nice evening, and it also comes at the end of the school year, so it should be doubly exciting. Summer Breakout kicks off on June 5th, the first week of the 9-week program. Our next Friday, Food Truck Friday, is June 9th. And now is the time to get in your July 4th parade application for our wonderful July 4th parade. On June 22nd at 11 a.m. at the Spring Park Pool, we invite all residents to come out and participate in the world's largest swim lesson. And finally, at our July Food Truck Friday event, we will be holding our Community Services Night as we honor our first responders.
One more thing.
Yeah.
If you haven't been by the dog park yet,
Oh, yes.
Maximus is up, and he's looking over the park now, and it's beautiful.
nice.
It's
Yeah.
really
Yes.
nice statue. And that's the Special Events Committee raised the funds for that and did a wonderful job.
And which also reminds me that the tiles are going to be going up on the statue base. And there's really only about, if you want to be on that first group of tiles, facing out toward everybody when you come in. We only have about 5 tiles left, about 10 tiles left.
Say 5, Eileen. Say 5.
Now, unfortunately, it's actually about 12, but it's close enough to 10. Okay, it's about 10 of tiles if you really want your name to be up there in front of the dog park. We will be putting tiles on the back, but that's on the back. And if not, you can take a look at our bricks, which come with the Celebration logo, which is also a wonderful thing to do. And all the bunnies are being used for the amenities for the dog park.
Thank you very much. All right, Recreation Committee.
I'll give the update for the Recreation Committee. Recreation Committee is currently working on updating and renewing the facility use agreement with the K-8 school. We've reached out to the principal, met with her, talked to her a little bit about the staff needs, some of the concerns with the usage of the facilities. We talked to her about some of the needs from the residents for using the facilities. And the next step is for us to take it to the Osceola School Board and talk with them and get it back in front of you guys so that you can look at it. We're probably going to do an extension of the current agreement to buy us a few more months just so that we can finalize and get everything worked out, because as we talk about future usage of recreation facilities, that school usage is very important, so we want to make sure we have it right. So we're focusing on that right now. We're also in the process of an RFP for a tennis service provider for the community. We sent it out to 5 different service providers, and June 9th, I believe, is the deadline for the proposals to be returned. And at the next Recreation Committee meeting, they'll be hearing the proposals and selecting a tennis provider for the community. They'll also be looking at moving forward with an RFP for swimming and a comprehensive swim program as we move forward. Of one of our new programs that just started last week, and it's very new, and its planning stages, is adult softball. They had 50 people show up to adult softball last Sunday.
Wow.
We will get this a little bit more organized, get a time selected, and we'll start advertising it and getting it out there to the community so more adults that want to come out and start playing softball can come attend.
Be nice if we get
So
that.
we're moving along with trying to implement the guidelines and the recommendations from the recreation program plan.
That'd be wonderful to get an adult league out there.
Steve, what's the time frame, jumping back to the Osceola contract? Are you trying to get that completed within the year? I know
Yes, so it'd probably be a few months of an extension because the contract ends at the end of June.
Okay.
So we'd like to have the full contract in place by the end of the year.
Yeah, I just know that there was some, when we did this previously, there was some sensitivity surrounding, first it was we couldn't do it because it was in the school year, and then we had the summer, and it was because they were doing maintenance, they needed some time, and then by that time, we had started back to school again.
Right.
So just want to make sure we kind of...
I think at the very least, we've heard from the principal just to continue with the existing agreement and usage that we have. So we know we have that moving forward, but we want to solidify an agreement with them on a little bit more access so we can maintain the fields better, a little bit more access for usage, and possibly getting that gym opened up where it's less cost prohibitive for doing programs there.
Cool. All right, good. All right, financial report, Ms. Kearns.
Okay, your financial report is in the board packet that was published as well as the board packet that you received. Our operating cash, we have $2.8 million in operating cash. In reserve funds, we have $3.6 million. $1,877,000 of that is our capital improvement funds.
So we're solid.
Yeah. Jack, I think it's important that the treasurer, that people think that the treasurer is actually looking at the numbers, so I did want to add comments every month as well. But so in terms of our CROA operating income expenses, things are in good shape. Our expenses are actually over $90,000 favorable to budget. That comes from our utilities, is about 30 of that, and then our maintenance, landscape maintenance is a large part of that as well. So our expenses are under good control. I don't see any items that we're having a problem with. On the income side, we are down $80,000. I need to explain that. $60,000 of that is we had a surplus from last year that we took over to offset a budget shortfall for this year. But that's $60,000. So 60 of the $80,000 is something that was budgeted and expected. So our income is only down about $20,000. And that really reflects a specific assessment. Oftentimes, it was a reversal of one, so somebody was assessed a lot of money at the end of last year. A lot of times that comes to us for appeal, and we lower it, and so something that was assessed last year got reversed this year. So the shortfalls are from things that we expect are not unexpected type of items. The only thing I would alert the board to is that last year we did really well in terms of our bad debt expense, and so what that is that people were paying their bills on time, and what happens is once things gets to over 90 days, we pretty much have to expense that and show that as a bad debt expense, and we're starting to see that creep back up. The dollar amounts that we're exposed to from foreclosures and bankruptcies are starting to creep up. So I think that's something nothing to be alarmed about, but something last year was great. This year we're starting to see a little bit of a slide on that. So it's something for us to keep an eye on. But otherwise, everything's in very good shape.
Great. Thanks very much, Paul. Appreciate that. All right, management report. Steve.
Yes, the management report is in your packet, and it's been posted online for residents to view also. I'll just touch on two quick items. Lee mentioned Comcast, so I'll elaborate a little bit on Comcast. Comcast is finishing up the final work in Phase 3. There's probably 5 to 10 houses, I believe, that they have left to provide pedestals to. They have worked through North Village, they've worked through Central Village and West Village, and they just completed Lake Evelyn this week. The next phase for them to begin on is East Village. And as they're going through here, they are meeting on a weekly basis with CCDD and myself and their construction team. And we have been talking about how the restoration's going. We've been talking about placement. Russ with the Development District has been walking with the Comcast construction representatives to make sure that wherever they can find the real estate and those development easements, to minimize the impact of those pedestals and move them, hide them wherever they can. They're really working closely together to get that done. They're also providing Russ and the Development District with the daily work schedule of where they're going to be, and they're trying to move through as quickly as possible to minimize the impact on the community. So they are stepping up, and they're looking within the next week or so to try and add another crew to keep construction going as quickly as possible. One of the obstacles is getting the locates done properly, so that they can have everything marked and located so that they don't hit any lines. And that requires staff to do that, so the Development District's working with them to try and identify how they can provide those resources to make that happen. So the Comcast construction is moving through, and after they get through East Village, it will be South Village, and then Artisan Park will be the last village.
Okay, and we have a kiosk over here, right?
We do have a kiosk in the lobby now, and if any residents want to come and play around with it, there's an iPad and a remote for the TV, so you can take a look at the products. They also had the Xfinity Experience was here last week, and they brought their big mobile vehicle out here so that you can go inside and you can interact with some of the products. They're going to plan on another Xfinity Experience in the next couple months to promote again the products and have the on-site representative there to answer any questions. The on-site representative will also be here once a month, so residents can come, they can talk to her, they can ask questions, and then there's a dedicated phone number that will be provided so residents can call and contact them.
Very good.
Steve, go ahead, Paul.
I was just going to ask, if you already have Comcast, does it just automatically switch over to, or do you still have to sign a new contract?
That's a great question. If you have Comcast, they have to put the fiber to your home. So they will be coming onto your yard to put the fiber to your home, because the fiber lines will be out in the street, but then you'll still be running off of old lines to the house. So they have to bring it to your house.
They'll do that automatically.
They will. So the product that you have now, that you have under contract, will still be provided on that line, but the line is like a souped up line to where you can do more. So they'll be contacting you to say, do you want to buy? They'll be doing some upselling, trying to get you to buy more products.
Okay.
Steve, will they have to actually put a line into your, someplace
It will be
in
on
your
the
house?
side of your house, yes.
Yeah, but from that box inside the house itself?
Once you contact them to set everything up, they'll do whatever they need to do inside of your house to get it all connected.
It's the same thing Smart City did when they came.
It is.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
With Comcast, I know there had been just some questions in regards to landscape restoral and that sort of thing as well that we were still struggling with. I think that we're getting better in a lot of those cases. The only question, so that was the end of the landscaping piece. The other question that I had, though, was in regards to the courtesy accounts. So do we have any time frame on those sort of things and when they'd be turning on?
The courtesy account at Spring Lake for the internet, or I'm sorry, for cable, is hooked up. So at the Spring Lake Fitness Center, on one of the TVs, you can watch Comcast. The courtesy account for the dog park has been hooked up, and we have the cameras hooked up to it. Patrick's still working through some of the technical issues for getting the gates properly hooked up to it so that we can download the data from here to there. North Village will be next once they get everything spliced and connected and turned on. Once it goes live, we'll get that hooked up for our courtesy service, and then the 851 building, I believe, would be next after that. So the time frame really is when they come in, they do the pipe installation, then they pull all the fiber through the pipe, then they have to splice it all together and hook it up. Once they get that done, they'll have our courtesy services activated. But they really have a priority right now of trying to move as quickly as they can. They love us here, but they want to get in and out so that they can move on to the next construction.
Yeah, I think I appreciate the speed of it, but I just want to make sure that we're still getting the quality.
Well, I told them today at the meeting, and it should be reflective in their meeting minutes of today, that they can move as fast as they want as long as they restore properly, as long as they have the locates done so they don't hit anything, as long as they restore properly, and as long as they communicate and get all the information that we're looking for out there. So as fast as they can move, as long as they meet that quality requirements.
Okay.
Very good.
Any other Comcast questions? Okay. The next item I want to talk about quickly is our next big park project, which is the athletic fields. We went to a CDD meeting last week, and the Development District has given direction to their management staff to work with CROA and TCC to finalize plans for construction of the road. So we're working diligently to try and get the somewhat of a conceptual design completed for the road so that we can take it back to the Development District and hopefully get a vote from them to work with us for building the road, building the sidewalk to the athletic field complex. And then what you all voted on last month, which was the public purpose, to begin looking at what the costs and the construction for that public purpose, which would be sidewalk connector and trail connector boardwalk to North Village.
Okay, cool.
I want to give you a quick update on the time frame for this project because we've been talking about it for a few months now. Once we get the road finalized and we know what we're going to do and how much it's going to cost, we're going to start working on the permits. That's going to be about a 6-month process to get the permits completed. When the permits are done, or when they're mostly done, we'll begin the RFP process. Our owner's rep will develop the RFP and we'll get that out in the street. Once we select a general contractor to actually begin the construction, we'll break ground, and the time frame is anywhere between 9 and 12 months to complete this project. So realistically, we could have a new athletic field complex open by the end of 2018.
Cool.
And that is the end of my management report.
All right. Now I see representatives from Davy Tree Service here.
Yep, Davy Tree Service. They'd like to come up and give a report.
There you are.
Good evening. For those who don't know me, I'm Rick Mansfield, the branch manager with Davy Tree. This is Roger Eccles, who is our production manager, who works with all of our crews and stuff, and then works directly with Teresa on the residents to take care of their landscaping. Just to bring up the speed, I think the rain is a welcome sight to all of us, and we'll cut down some of the hours that we put into taking care of the irrigation and things well beyond what, we should be doing. And that focus will be back onto a lot more landscaping. I did a tour of the parks today, and the parks look relatively good. The weed issue and all that kind of stuff is being done, additional mulching. What I did see, though, was a need to limb up a bunch of trees in the park that are hanging down. So I think there's 4 parks we're going to start on tomorrow. And I took the crews through those parks today to make sure they knew exactly which ones to be done and where. So I think that's very much of where we're at. I think everything's starting to get right back to where we need it to be. And so I'm happy about that. Not happy that we're not getting some of the projects, which I'll be talking to Steve and to Todd about. Okay. Besides that, Roger, do you have anything to talk about with the stresses?
I know we're interested. Lately, me and her have been communicating a lot with each other. Me and her we're going to be sitting down with each other on some of the issues that we do have at some of the townhomes. I do understand the frustration with some of the residents with what's going on. As a Dave representative, I do apologize for that, but we will get that corrected as soon as possible. You just have to bear with us a little bit. It will take a little time because certain things we can't just hit it and have it over with. It takes a little work to get it back right. But we definitely will get that done for you. For the residents, I have went through and did a pre-emergent on all of the beds. So it will be a significant change on weed control at all the townhomes, and we're just going to continue to keep getting everything in shape and everything manageable. All your hedges under the windowsill so that you guys can enjoy your beautiful home and your beautiful city.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Roger. Thanks,
I think, sorry, I can't go without ever shutting up with Davey. So the only thing that I would say is I'll give you guys kudos again. It is looking a lot better, and things are looking a lot better. The other thing is Roger, I saw your guys out there doing work that is trying to get ahead of things, like you said, with the pre-emergent and that sort of thing, and doing those sort of items, which I think that, we're not going to see. It's just that we're not going to have a problem in 3 months, and no one's going to say anything when everything looks good. They're only going to say something when it looks bad. The one comment that I guess that I would have is I know in some of the townhomes, I drove by a couple of them, and once again, you guys are the experts, but when I look at it, a lot of the landscaping is, our community is older, we have more tree cover now, there's more shade, and there's just some plants that are not going to survive where they're at. So, I know that, obviously budget's a concern, but I also don't want to, chase things just to keep replacing the same plant material that's going to die off in a year or two, because the tree is really the thing that needs to be thinned, or turf isn't going to grow here because there's just too much shade. And those are the kind of things that I think that we would want to make sure that you guys are spending the time on to bring the recommendation to Todd and his team, so that we can look at, hey, if we have to spend some money to figure out how to fix something in a park or in a townhome or whatever, let's look to do that so that we have more of a long-term solution than just yes, fixing that one piece of plant material would be an immediate fix and everyone would be happy, but in 6-8 months we're going to be in the same boat again. So those are the kind of things that I really hope to see a lot more of come down the pipe.
Todd, a lot of those are CDD trees. Are you getting good cooperation from the CDD and doing trimming a lot of those trees? Or
yeah, we typically do. We have no issues there. These are ones that are hanging into the park, so it's like if it was on your own property.
Especially the townhomes, those are a lot of CDD trees there.
They are. The ones that I pointed out today was a Kilo Loop. They're like right here.
Yeah.
We'll get those.
All right. We have in next month's June's paper, there's an article from the Development District about tree trimming, and they're trimming for safety and off of the sidewalk and houses. And then we follow up with an article from Susanna on some best practices for tree trimming, because we don't want it to just be this assumption that if you read the Development District article, now you can just go do whatever you want to your tree. So we want to make sure that there's some follow-up, and that they contact Susanna and ARC to make sure they're doing it the right way.
Okay.
And Russ and I met just this week to talk about trees at Blue Sage, and it did extend into a conversation about
Hey, it wasn't even me this time. It was Jack.
So Russ and I had an opportunity to talk about the Blue Sage trees after the CDD meeting, and it extended into a conversation about him explaining better, using Blue Sage as an example, on what CDD's committed to doing to those easement trees, and how we can communicate better if we see something in the townhomes, as an example, to bring it to his attention in enough time so he can kind of do some planning on his end. And Todd and I are going to continue to be working village by village village to address trees that are falling outside that CDD area, to do exactly what you brought up, which is doing some of that limbing up, which green lawn will be one of the big benefits of that tree trimming we did.
Sure.
The other thing I would just say too, not that anyone asked me, but I'm just going to throw it out there, is one of the things that Roger was saying is we're using pre-emergence in the service areas, and the important thing for the service area owners is that this is a pre-emergent we had not been using before, because this is strictly for beds, whereas the pre-emergent that Davey had been using, which benefited the parks a lot, but not as much of the service areas, was in turf areas, things like that, and that pre-emergent could not be used on the beds. I know so much more after these meetings. It couldn't be used in the beds. So some of the struggles we've been facing with trying to keep those weeds under control where the pretty plants were growing was because there wasn't a pre-emergent. Now we do, and I think we're going to track that over the next 90 days and see how much of a benefit do we see. Do we see us getting better weed control in those bed areas where it's much more visible?
Sure. Teresa, just one question. Are they going to put the trees in for us?
They are. We had a lovely meeting with an owner there, and both Tim and Adam Parrish attended the meeting. Russ was there. We had a really good meeting. We're getting 4 trees. We're going to work with Gerard also to get a quote and to talk to them a little bit about it. And the owners are going to be aware through their grapevine there, and also through communication from service area, that pretty much we're all on board. They're getting the trees, done deal. Now it's just a matter of when is the best time to plant them. And we'll be doing some irrigation, factoring into that to make sure they have bubblers so that the trees have a really good chance of survival. And so everybody's pretty happy. They're willing to wait a little bit if it's just a matter of right time, now that they know kind of all the boxes have been checked.
Yeah, I will say, I went to the last CDD meeting, and that was the request I made, was to have those trees installed for blue sage. Blue sage homeowners came to us and asked for an additional 4 trees to be placed in their easements, which would be the CDD easement, because of shade, and it was very hot over there in some areas. So I'm very pleased with the cooperation we have with the CDD. We're working real well together.
And just to clarify, because it's being taped and I don't want to get a plethora of phone calls tomorrow that we have an in with the CDD to request trees, the owners of Blue Sage have agreed to pay for those trees because of the situation they're dealing with. So they are definitely putting their money where their wish list is.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Todd, last year, and one of the strategic plans were to try to beautify some of the highly visible areas in town.
Yes, sir.
And you were going to get together with CDD if it were CDD property, or get with Davey if it were Davey property, to see what we could do about making those things more showy. Where are we at on that?
Well, I didn't have that direction to speak with the CDD about their areas, but I would love to do that, because most of the high focal points are CDD.
Yeah, I realize that, yeah.
If that's the direction of the board, I would welcome that opportunity to work with them.
We'll kick that around.
And I think Todd, as he brings these proposals for some of these parks, he's considering how we can provide more wow factor to them also.
Yeah, great.
Good.
No more 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah.
Or green.
Or green.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks very much, guys. All right, so let's move on to the action items then.
Jack, can I just ask, can you turn the volume up on that phone and see if David's there?
This one here?
Yeah.
Who's here?
Oh, it's off?
Yeah, somebody
Well, if
turned
it's
it
off,
off.
then-
Is that Dave?
David, yeah, I think. I don't know
Okay.
if he's on the boat or what.
Oh, we kind of see
I didn't know David was there.
We
wasn't
waited
on there
like
before.
30 minutes.
Yeah.
He can't be on the
All right.
boat, can he?
Tab 1 is Georgetown Condominium Association mediation update.
You made it all the way to tab 1.
Yeah, I did. Okay. You got the email from Chuck that gave you, as we promised when we met with you, an update on the timeline. So unfortunately, as you see, it's going to take us through to March of next year. But to explain why it's going there is all the extra work and how we've expanded the scope of work as well that goes with it. It's not just a case of the landscaping. We are doing the drainage. We have drainage issues within our property that we are having to address at the same time with the civil engineer, and so we go on. So we had to work into that, work in the timeline that goes with that. At the same time as well, we tried to complete the landscaping as per the mediation. So I'm not asking you to extend it or to approve the extension. It's just giving you the guideline to what it is. With us coming down each month, we can tell you, because again, it's a guesstimate to how long, an educated guess to how long we've got it. But then if we go with, we've also looked at options to try to expedite, and get things to move quicker. We're working with the nursery. We turn around and said to them, we'll pay you extra if you'll actually install the plants. We'll get the regrading done. We'll do the drainage. But if you can come behind us and install the plants and lay the sod, that takes at least 3-4 days off the guys. That's 3-4 days of demo on the next building that we can do. So it's things like that we're doing to try and help keep the process going, momentum going forward as we go forward, so that we can get it done sooner. The other thing, obviously, is the Celebration Boulevard side, from Longview through to Grand Magnolia, those townhomes and the two corners of the two big buildings where we've got that steep embankment, inclinement there, that it doesn't work. The rain runs off, the topsoil goes with it, nothing will grow. So we're looking with Albert was going, we need a retention wall there that we can make it look better. So while my guys are working on one side, we'll have the civil engineer down there doing all of that stuff, get that retention, so my guys work back through. And so we're trying to work and just kind of jiggle everybody around to get it done. If I don't meet this is our final deadline, I'm out of a job, and so we're Todd. I mean, that's pretty much what the board has said to us. So, there's a lot of incentive for us to get this done for you, but I have full confidence that we will have it done in time by then.
Well, Yannick, I applaud your efforts. You guys have done a great job. It looks a whole lot better.
It does.
They requested in Chuck's email that the extension be to, I believe it's April 2018. Yeah. And I would like to move to extend it to April 18.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
All right, I'll second the motion.
All right, all in favor? Or actually discussion?
Discussion.
Are you going to add Annika's offer to lose her job, or is that?
No.
That's a little harsh.
No.
Let's amend that motion.
All right, so any further discussion then? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Anna.
All right. Yeah, I do.
All right.
Thank you so much.
I had to come back.
All right. Tab 2 is...
They have run so much stuff.
Yeah, they've done an awful lot. All right, tab 2 is a motion to approve the renovation of the East Village Sports Field by signature sod for $54,675, plus irrigation improvements of up to $4,500. This is a CROA reserve expenditure.
Having lived next to this place for a lot of years, it absolutely needs it. The irrigation system just is not covering the property, so
Okay.
it's really, and as a result, they keep trying to fix it, and it's not getting fixed. I mean, it's always going brown.
All right, so do I have a motion then?
I'll make a motion.
And a second, please?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion?
Let's chat, Todd.
Can I add one more thing to this too? This is not because of negligence or not proper maintenance practices on the field. It's just every 8 to 10 years, it's a best practice to scan a field, laser level it, and put down new turf. So this is past its time frame for us to do this.
This is what we did Spring Park about 3 years ago.
Exactly.
It's a
yes.
very, very well-used field.
It is. And there's lacrosse. Lacrosse is, we always talk about maintaining turf, and there's two things you can do. You can maintain type of use and amount of use, and lacrosse has to play somewhere, and that's where they play a majority of their sport. And lacrosse is the #1 turf beater, from a sport perspective. So it definitely gets a lot of use. And actually it looks really good for the amount of use that it does get.
Todd, this is the same company that did Spring Lake, correct?
Spring Park, yes.
Spring Park,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And are they doing the same? I see here that it states that they're doing the sports field renovation, and that it's going to include a regrade and installation and all that sort of stuff, machine rolling. Is it still the same sort of true regrading and laser leveling like they did on the other fields to actually flatten it out and make it so that when they put the sod down, we don't get low spots and that sort of
Correct.
thing?
Yes.
Okay.
I actually met them out there, each one of the contractors, looking at the slopes and
Because it's a
comparing it to the
tricky
grading plan.
area over there with the way
It
that
is.
everything's drained and that sort of thing.
Yeah, a lot of the plans show it going into the woods to the pool side of the park, but it doesn't actually do that. Only about a quarter of it does. So
Right.
They've thought that all out. We're trying to push the limits out a little bit because the St. Augustine's creeped in on the Oak Shadow side So we'll regain some area there, as
Yeah.
well as there is a baseball field there as well.
Right.
So
And
backstop
that, I guess, was going to be my other question, because I know that we have, the field is currently supposed to be Bermuda, right?
Yes.
That's what's out there now?
Yes.
So I just know from my own lawn that I have Zoysia and that I have St. Augustine on both sides of me, that unless I keep on top of it, it just runs right over the yard. Are we going to run into that same thing with the sod here, or how do we prevent that?
Unless you put a solid separation, such as a curbing or something, a sidewalk, you'll always battle that. That's why we're pushing it out further, because we've lost maybe 10 to 15 feet over many years. So really can't prevent it except for hard edging.
I think a great example of that is the baseball field out here. They put Bermuda down up to a certain point, and then the rest was still that mix of whatever else was out there, and it does grow into it if you're not.
Yeah. So you're gonna put Bermuda in here?
Yeah, it is is Bermuda now. It's St. Augustine. Whichever one's the stronger grass at the time will choke the other one out. So the goal is to keep the Bermuda healthy and going. So, and I will point out the Signature is the one, the company that came in and rescued Davy with all the sod installation to do all the fertilization, the weed control. So they have been making the community look good.
Perfect.
No offense to Davy, but thank you for hiring them.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right,
Thank you.
tab 3, motion to approve landscape renovation of Croton Park by New Leaf Property Services for $5,671.86, which is a CROA reserve expenditure.
Same thing there, they're gonna resod? No?
Yeah, that's just a portion of Zoysia.
Yeah, small.
So do I have a motion then?
Yeah, I'll move.
And a second, please?
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay.
You take it, Paul.
Paul's got it. Okay, discussion
I
then?
need to throw me a bone there.
Right, I know, right?
Y'all want me to describe this one?
Do we need any discussion on this?
This is literally just the only thing that I want to point out here is it's not just grass, because we are changing out the hardscape there as well underneath that that bench, correct?
Yeah, all the currently is 2 park bench pads that are both cracked in the center because of the tree roots. So similar to what we did at Tapestry Park is to add the sidewalk out to the curbing, because that's where all the traffic patterns are. That way we're not replacing sod constantly. Pavers are easier to adjust when the roots push on them.
Okay.
Okay, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So if you don't mind me, I guess sign these things as we're doing them. Okay, tab 4 is motion to approve paver installation at Croton Park by New Leaf Property Services for $5,200, a CROA operating expenditure.
Oh, I guess I screwed up. I guess this is the pavers.
Okay.
Paver.
It's the same scope, but we just had to separate it out because we had bids for pavers only and landscape only.
Gotcha.
Okay, so a motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
And I'll second it.
Perfect.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
All right.
Can we get to keep the little slide in there? Is that,
It looks pretty, right?
That was probably 4,000.
All right, tab number 5, motion to approve landscape renovation of Savannah Square Park by New Leaf Property Services for $3,623.49, a CROA reserve expenditure.
I'll make the motion.
And second, please?
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Can you elaborate on the significant difference in price between these two? Because I mean, we're talking almost the closest.
$4,000 difference.
Yeah, was over double what the other one
It was, and plant material wise, where did I put my little narrative? It was the size of plants and their source. Davey had made a comment earlier that they were disappointed in not being recommended as a landscaper, but clearly they're higher on every single one of these proposals.
Right.
To point that out. I met with each landscaper out there. They knew the scope. And that's the only reason I can think is,
So the plant, what's the difference in size in between these two? So it's still the 1 gallons, or?
no, they're both 7-gallon specs for the Orchidea holly, the main plant, and then it's 1 gallon jasmine.
And is that the same that we require homeowners to put in, or is that a smaller piece of plant material?
No, it's larger.
Okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to,
3 gallons is a typical hedge plant.
Okay.
Newly installed. 7, I think newly put in there 7 to 15 gallon, because they want to try and match the exact size that's existing.
And with the jasmine, you want a smaller one so you can put it in tighter.
Gotcha, okay.
Let me ask you, so this, I mean, I live down the street from that, and there's huge issue with trucks. I mean, a truck coming down there, they can't get through there, so they roll over, and you can see the curb is all messed up. Is the curbing going to change, or what are you going to do in the curbing, and is this going to allow trucks to get through there without causing damage?
I'm glad you asked. This park, I've always loved this park, and it's bugged me that we've been constantly replacing the hedges on the corners because they're right on.
You probably replace the sprinklers about once a week.
Right. So the goal was, and I took Albert Riddle out there, and we reviewed it and came up with this idea of jasmine is very hardy. You can walk on it and run over it and do whatever you want to it. The hedges, you really can't. They break and they're ruined. So putting them back behind a typical sign placement, which trucks usually avoid, will put us in a safe zone. So thereby putting drip irrigation in instead of heads that are going to be snapped.
Oh, so you're going to convert, okay.
Yes.
That's a great idea.
And that'll resolve, hopefully, the majority of it. Will trucks still run through it? Yeah. They really don't have an alternative sometimes because they get jammed in there and they got to go somewhere.
What will you do to keep, I mean, some cars will, if it looks like it's easy for them to run through there, will run through it when they don't need to. Is there something to kind of, I guess I look at,
Pointy rocks or something.
Well, the roundabout at where the restaurants are, a typical roundabout, you'll have a smooth area, but then you'll have a slope that's a rocky, bumpy area. So cars don't want to get on that because it's real bumpy, but a truck, if they need to, will go around it and it won't do, they can get by. Is that the same concept you have going here?
I believe it's 2 corners have curbs now, which will repair and make them look nicer because they're cracked up.
Yeah.
We can look at
so the
other
curbs are going to
corners.
go back in? Because if the trucks go over those, they're just going to crack up again, right?
Can we just remove the curb?
I think, well, on Paul's point, if we remove the curbs, people are more apt to cut the corners. And we don't want to put anything like a landscape boulder in because then we're maybe creating a liability at that point.
Yeah.
Whereas a curb is a curb, so.
Yeah.
I'm just afraid those curb, if it's the same height, you know what I'm saying about what they do, and where rather than a curb, they put like a sloped.
Similar to the Celebration Place roundabout.
Yeah.
Would that take away the Savannah Square look, though?
Yeah.
You would have to put a rumble blocks or whatever that are like a clay paver. Albert and I spoke about that also. The way they resolved it on a couple of the corners of the townhomes was they had taken away the sod and just put pavers throughout the whole radius. That's a possibility, but we really don't think that the funds are well needed for that area at the moment. We want to try this, and it's a lower expense initially. We really think it'll resolve the problem.
Okay. Gentlemen, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Motion carries. All right, tab number 6, the motion to approve landscape renovation of Downey Park by New Leaf Property Services for $20,957. This is a CROA reserve expenditure.
So moved. Second.
Okay, discussion.
This one's straightforward.
Okay. No discussion then?
That's where you live?
All in favor?
Are you recusing yourself?
All in
I guess I had to
favor?
recuse myself from the last one.
All right, gentlemen, all in favor?
Yes, I'm Brian.
Opposed? Motion carries.
It's not just his park, it is the.
We can't do that, can we?
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, Ty. All right, tab 7, motion to approve the final invoices for the materials and installation of the trellises on campus by Scott Walker and Associates in the amount not to exceed $20,000. This is Academy Row Meeting House Green Service Area Reserve Expenditure.
Slow.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Ms. Teresa.
When do we think that we will no longer see the word trellis
Yeah.
on
Not in my lifetime, I
on
think.
something to approve? Are we thinking like a few months, or is it going to be? They look beautiful, but it's definitely a craftsman at work here.
It is.
Yeah.
I would say our target was to be done long before before your next board meeting.
Okay.
I've driven it several times over the past couple of weeks to just check on the progress. And part of what held us up briefly in the last round was the vendor the creativeness of the vendor, being able to get us the invoices so we could get them on your agenda to get them approved. After our last meeting, we discussed in order for him to be able to invoice me, pay him, and he can get materials and get moving, give me the invoices of what you're going to need to finish the job. We get them approved at this meeting, and then as he's ready, he'll invoice me,
You can get them.
and then he's not waiting on anyone's approval.
Okay.
So we will be actively having coffee out there watching the trellises close out. It'll be kind of like Christmas countdown with Santa. We will be going 4 more
looks
trellises
nice.
and then
I
3
mean-
more trellises.
But this is the last agenda.
This is the last.
This is the last one, yes.
Yeah, okay.
In June's agenda, I will add to my management report lovely pictures of
Lovely
the
pictures of trellises,
final
yeah.
ones. I'll bring donuts, the last trellis. It'll be the tipping party, the last trellis. We will meet out there for coffee and donuts.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay.
All right, tab number 8, the motion to approve moving forward with mediation on property for noncompliance issues.
This is in your board packet.
That's the one, right?
Okay, just the one there?
There's just the one property. It's has a history of noncompliance for 7 years. They've been fined several times from 2010 to 2015. They have $45,000 on their account, and they have quite a few non-compliance items open right now.
So
We've asked for a timeline. They haven't provided us with
Yeah.
one.
I took Susanna by there yesterday, so I moved to approve the fines for the mediation.
You moved to what?
Move forward.
Move forward with the mediation.
Oh, okay, I thought you said fines.
I did, and I'm changing
Oh,
the
okay.
mediation.
I will second that, if it's appropriate.
So playing the part of Paul this evening, I'll ask the question. We have.
I'm the pussycat.
We currently have $45,000 worth of fines on the account. How much do we think it's going to cost us in order to be able to pursue mediation against this? I'm trying to figure out, are we spending more money to chase a smaller dollar figure?
I would say our based on historically what it's cost up to about $5,000.
Okay. So what, in the goal in mediation, is obviously to get the property back into compliance, is the main goal, but are we relatively confident that there'd be any recovery there of those costs, or is it more just the compliance issue at this point?
Well, that's the part that when you go into the mediation, you work out as far as the fines go. I will say that this property has shown a history of financial challenges, so,
Okay.
That'll probably come into play. The whole $45,000 probably isn't recoverable, because if I look in the history, some of the items were fined twice, like landscape.
Sure.
And you can't do that, so it's probably more like $30,000.
Okay.
I also know that at the moment, there are some financial challenges too, so while this will be approved, we are going to wait and see, and make sure that this property doesn't go into foreclosure. We wouldn't pursue mediation
Right.
if that was taking place.
I can tell you that this property at one point was at the courthouse the next day, and it was
And they
it was
paid,
saved. But you've exhausted all of your options to try and get the compliance
Yeah,
issues
and some of
fixed.
the items are things that wouldn't even cost you money, right? I mean, it's just
Move the trampoline.
Move it. And it's like, so it's.
They got bicycles,
I think it's-
trampolines, they got all kinds of stuff
I think
stored on the side.
it's mainly just you all doing the next
Yeah.
step in your enforcement rights that you have to get them to clean it up.
I did reach out, with a certified letter to say, contact me, let's work on a timeline together, and it was rejected. So, the homeowner clearly doesn't want to work on, making it happen.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 9, motion to approve to initiate the fining process for 16 non-compliance items through notification of the Covenants Committee meeting to confirm or reject the fine.
This was
Down to 12.
This is 12, right? Yeah.
Amended 12?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you get that? I didn't get that?
It should be on the updated.
Okay.
Yeah, you've got it on the table.
I don't have it.
I'll move for that. That makes sense.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion?
I had, I've talked to you several times about number 2 on the list.
Yes.
And, when things are really bad, I guess my question is there anything we can do to really accelerate the process? And because it becomes a very visible area, it's obvious that they have just abandoned it. I guess that's the question. Is like,
Well-
it really is a sad eyesore, and
CROA will be maintaining it now as far as just mowing and basic
will?
landscape. Yeah,
when does
but,
that start?
as soon as I can get a hold of Davey to do it.
Okay.
It looks like the irrigation's been turned off there. I mean,
Yeah.
everything's just dying. And I have personally called them.
Yeah.
I've written them emails to everybody I know that's working with them, and I'm just getting no response there. So, legally, you have to do the proposal of fines before it can, get to the next stage with the Covenants Committee. So that part you can't get around. But this is a case where, honestly, the fines can go on the count, and the homeowner just may not care.
What is the time when at least we can get in and mow it and edge it? So
As soon as I can get a hold of Davey, I will.
Oh, you mean what triggers that?
But it's just basic.
Because could we trigger that earlier? I guess is the question. Because it's really
Well,
been.
you look to see if the property is occupied. There was somebody maintaining the lawn for a little bit, even though the irrigation was shut off. There was somebody mowing,
it's been a while,
doing
though.
some basic property
Maybe the
maintenance.
bushes.
Then they've quit doing that, so now we
So we
send
can
out a
trigger that.
14-day notice.
We can trigger that anytime, or is there some trigger that something we have to do to allow us to then go ahead and start maintaining?
When the property is abandoned, appears abandoned, and there is no maintenance taking place on the property
We
at
can
all,
go
and
in
we
and
send
do
out a
it.
14-day notice to
14-day
give them a
notice,
heads up.
okay.
Yes.
Do that tomorrow, we got 2 weeks before we can jump on it.
Yeah, well,
Oh, so
we've already
sent-
sent the 14-day notice
Oh,
out,
okay,
so
good.
now
Okay,
we're
good.
going to get going.
Okay.
And that's based off of advice from legal counsel. We cannot go on the property if there's someone still occupying the property. And if there's safety concerns, there's
Yeah.
a lot of different issues for that, so we have to wait.
It
until
sounds like
it's
if we see a
abandoned.
property that we feel's really in bad shape, we can sit there and say, listen, Suzanne, can you take a look at it? Let's get that 14-day motion going so we can at least get it, a little bit respectable.
They look
Yeah.
for some signs for abandonment. Are the newspapers piling up? Is there no cars coming and going? Those types of things.
What are the neighbors reporting?
Neighbors saying,
They
right.
can let the neighbors
Okay.
certify that.
All right, so that explains things.
All right.
Item 9, and I'm just trying to look it up here real quick, and I couldn't find it. This is different than what was on the previous appeals agenda, correct? We had an appeal for this exact item.
Oh, there's been some appeals for cameras lately.
Yeah, but there was something on this street as well, but this is something different?
This is a different property.
Different property, okay.
You don't want Silveridge Avenue.
Yeah, that was.
Okay.
But y'all are looking at cameras, right?
Yes.
Possibly making it, okay. Good.
Okay, gentlemen? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, tab number 10, motion to approve to convert one fine to a specific assessment, an S9. I'm going to move to approve it.
I'll second it.
This has to do with short-term renting and not providing a lease.
I thought that was being, but it continues, so it's, is this the same one we've been dealing with for a while?
No, this is a different property than the one that went
Oh,
to
actually a
mediation.
different property.
Yes.
This is the fine that's been on the account, but you're not adding a new fine. This is.
But it is a new
converted
property
to-
on Campus Street?
This would be converted to a specific assessment and put on their account.
Right.
Yeah.
It's different than the previous one we were talking about.
Yes, this is different than the one that went to mediation for short-term renting.
Yeah.
Okay, question, any discussion?
Fines to assessment.
All right, all in favor? I'm sorry, Paul, you done? You got more discussion?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Tab number 11, motion to approve to have CCMC send 24 service area intent to lien letters to owners delinquent as of the April 1st assessments.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
So a lot of these are the same exact amount, and there's a fair amount of them?
That would make sense.
Yeah, so I assume this is just...
They forgot to pay.
They forgot to pay?
Like 1, 2, and 3, maybe. There may be some late interest.
There may be something interest there,
From some
yeah.
other dates. Yeah, exactly.
I got to tell you, though, bothersome to me is that the post office is not delivering the mail very well.
I agree with that.
So if there's an area that seems to have a number jointly together.
Well, all Mosaic is one. I always get my mail, though.
I've stopped
I don't get my
using
certified letters from them.
I don't use our post office. I mean, I go to a different city to post mail.
All right, well, all right, in this case, I don't see a real red flag right now, but, okay. So any further discussion then? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 12, motion to approve to have CCMC send 206 CROA intent to lien letters to owners delinquent as of April 1st assessments.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I actually didn't see as much of a pattern here, other
No,
than
I
just
don't
the
see it
amount.
either. It's just
So,
amounts.
yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Tab number 13, the motion to approve two homeowner requests totaling $57.92.
So both of these are post office concerns, right? That's what they're saying?
Yes.
And there's nothing else on here. I'll make the motion to approve the homeowner requests.
Yeah.
I'll second it, yeah.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
And I know we just voted, but they are both current, so that's why I feel comfortable with this. Yeah.
No, they haven't had a history. Okay, motion's 14, motion to approve two attorney-instructed write-offs totaling $27,762.
So moved.
There's not much we can do. We can't collect it. It's just an administrative thing.
I'm moving.
So I'll second it. Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. We're down to number 15, motion to approve.
You know, can I make this comment? I would, at some point in time, our attorney fees, we've got about $70,000 in over 90 days, which are, we end up as a community having to pay for those things. At some point in time, coming in to explain, if there's a different way of doing it, or because the most troublesome thing to me about these things is the attorney fees, that we end up these other, we have actually having to pay money out for these things, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a recurring theme that it seems like we're paying a lot of money out for attorney fees for, bankruptcy situation, foreclosures.
So you want to know where to cut the losses, huh?
Well, just have it explained, and just are there other options for how to do this, or
Can we ask Larson, or who's this, Becker? Or
Becker Polycop is our collection.
Can we ask them to advise us on that? Okay.
Well, I almost...
I'm grasping at straws. I don't know.
Well, I would almost get someone else. I mean, it's because it's in Becker and Polikoff's interest that we don't change what we're doing, right?
Well, we can ask Larson.
I mean,
because that's competition for him.
Well, we're always going to pay.
I mean, I know we're going to
be
pay
responsible for this.
something, but it's the kind of thing where I don't want to, if someone comes to me as the consultant that's asking me if there's a way that I can save them money on my consultant's charge, I'm going to tell them, no, you're stuck. This is the only way to
But
do
then
it.
again, if they want your business, they're going to advise you, though.
Yeah.
Well, our current general counsel, Larson and Associates, they have a new program. It's called Larson Prime, where there's a fixed amount that we pay every year for them to do. And I don't know the details, but they would like to come in and talk to you about that. This might be the opportunity for us to have them come in and talk about their program.
Yeah, that reminds me, Charlie has asked us about coming in and talk to us.
Because a lot of these legal fees, there's just a administrative person sending out processing paper, and we're spending a lot. Over $100,000 probably an attorney.
I would support having them come in and give us a presentation. There's no harm in us listening to it.
Well, I believe we have a June 19th workshop, don't we?
We do.
So would that be
Yeah, that'd be great. Thanks, Eric.
What was it?
June 19th? We have workshops.
We have workshop that day? Okay.
Yeah, and I'll just give you a real quick update I think for June. We have on the agenda budget timeline and any board requests for the budget, so that shouldn't take too long. And then we have to discuss the touchscreen display for downtown.
Okay.
So that's just money. We can spend that. Yeah, that's easy.
Well, that's you. You're supposed to talk about that.
Check you over here once.
All right.
There's an appeal meeting, so. Well, we'll add Larson Prime first then on the agenda, and then if we have time for the other two items, if not, we can schedule another meeting.
Sure.
Okay, so we're down to tab 15, the motion to approve 2 legal recommendations.
Did we vote on the write-offs? We did, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so this is where we need I'll move.
Move to do both of them or what? Or individually do them? I would like to separate them.
There's one for 48 months there.
Yeah, I wanted that separated.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Oh, no, what the attorney?
Yeah, just the first one.
Okay, so what is your motion then?
To approve the first one.
Okay, I'll second that. Okay, discussion.
Sounds good to me.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. First one is approved. The second one, I move to disapprove it. 48 months is just way out of reach for me. Okay.
So the attorney had advised that they're trying to say that we can get some money better than nothing, but
I'm going to say that the same thing is going to happen as at this other house, and then they'll go to
bankruptcy. Yeah, the one we talked. Yeah, okay.
And we dodged a bullet there.
Yeah, I know. So, what's I guess if we don't approve this, can we go back to the homeowner and propose? I mean, I personally would be in favor of a payment plan if it's for less than 48 months. I mean, if they want to reduce it to 12, sure, I'm all for that. Can we provide that recommendation back to them, or?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
You can make a counter to them.
Do we
a
need
lot of times, if you disapprove it, the homeowners will ask us for a little bit more, elaborate a little bit more on why, and that's something we should
How
share.
about,
Just policy not to go longer than 12 months.
based on what the attorney says, what about $437 a month for 11 months, and then the payoff at the 12th month?
As long as we got our money.
Oh,
I mean,
I see what
what
you're
I'm saying, the attorney sounds like he's saying,
you guys better try to get something
what
like
you
that.
can.
Yeah.
And
It almost seems like they're saying they realize it's maybe an unrealistic time frame, but if you can get something.
Or if he, like I say, if he files bankruptcy, we're dead in the water.
I guess the flip side to that is they can say that it's not reasonable. I'll never be able to make that final payment. And so I mean, I guess the intention is, are they going to make those payments, whether you approve 48 months or 11 months?
Yeah, there's a chance he's not going to pay the 12th, but we might get 11 months out of him.
I'll make the motion to approve. Can we make a motion for a payment plan now, or do we have to wait for them to come back?
I think if you do it now and you say this is what we would approve, then that way if they say no, then they just don't do it. But if you guys go back with the counter, then it would have to come back in front of you for an approval.
I'll make the motion to approve a payment plan of $437.83 per month for 11 months, with the remaining balance being due in month 12.
On the 12th?
I'll second that.
Well, I think either way is...
It's a crapshoot
We're
either way
beating a
here.
dead horse,
Yeah.
right?
I'd rather get $437.83 than
We get $4 or $5
nothing.
grand out of them.
You know.
All right, well, that's within 12 months, so it's a crappy deal.
It's a crappy deal.
It's a crappy deal already.
We're working within the JAC guidelines. We're trying to squeeze in the JAC guidelines there.
I normally don't do this, but can I ask Pat for any advice on this one? She's been doing this for a while. Is there
I'll move to
anything
recognize
different
Pat Wasson from the floor.
Well, if somebody's asking you for 48, my recommendation is that you have Steve or someone talk to the homeowner and see what is the very best plan you can work out. I would try not to go beyond 18 months. I have many collection attorneys tell me things past that you're probably not going to get much. But you never know someone's circumstances. If they're saying 48 months and suddenly you tell them $400, if they can't afford anything, you'll just won't get a dime. They'll just stop there.
Yeah.
So by you making that motion, I think you just tied staff hands. So I think your intent is very clear that you do not want a 4-year plan. And if nothing else, Steve can, or whoever he decides that should call them and try to negotiate it back down to, maybe look back at 24 months.
Okay.
It's troublesome because there's been no payment since 2010.
2010, that's the only thing.
You know.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see a dime on this in reality.
I'd sooner just dispense with this, but
let's-
there's a motion on the table.
I
so-
think,
Yeah.
you want to pull it?
Yeah, I'll withdraw my motion. And I guess do we need to make a motion to not approve this, or does it just die? And can we just tell you that?
It is. It can just die, and then we can go back to them and see if there's a better offer. It's just they'll have to wait another month.
Yeah, I'd rather just do that. So I guess the direction that I would provide to.
All right, so is there a motion to approve this?
No.
No. Okay.
Just fails.
Just one more point with this. If they come back with 24 months and we try and do an email approval with the unanimous decision, probably is not very likely that that's going to happen. So, it's a tough one. I mean, for you all to vote on it for just consensus, it would have to be a special meeting if they need to get this done before the June meeting.
My concern is that if Jack has, persuaded us that, he doesn't want to do more than 12 months. I feel bad, allowing somebody to do 18 or 24 months, how do you go to that person and then the next person comes along and you say no? So, if we're sticking with 12 months, I think we got to stick with it.
Well, I think if we had seen some money out of them since 2010.
7 years ago.
Yeah. I would have had more faith.
There's got to be some good faith, and part of my issue is that, so we're going to carry this person for 3 years and use homeowner dues to make up the difference that we would have gotten in this person's assessment.
Right.
Which may slow us down from our operating things. So I don't...
Actually, it's 4 years.
Yes.
4 years.
Well, but I'm saying 4 years, but I mean, if we did it 12 months...
Or instead of 48.
I just feel it's a bad thing to go that far.
Well, if we're doing 12 months, I say stick 12 months. I mean, I don't want to make any exceptions.
You want to see if he can negotiate it?
Well, it's up to him now to come back to us.
We'll give Steve 12 months, however he wants to figure it out.
Well, Steve knows our feeling, okay?
Right.
The motion has died, and that concludes.
Do we have clear direction provided to management?
Yes, I understand.
Okay. All right, it's a limited strategic planning goals update. There's only a few of us that can talk about
I have an
goals.
update.
Okay. Dan, I'll let Eric talk about your update.
So I was removed from communications, so I won't talk anymore about that. But number 6, for Explore Green and Technology Initiatives, it's myself and Leonard. I spoke with Call to Recycle. They are the folks that you actually see in the lower left-hand corner of every single box that is sold legally in the United States with a rechargeable battery on it. It is a manufacturer paid-for program that does battery and cell phone recycling. There's no cost to us to do this. There is no service fee. There's no nothing. Literally, they provide us with the cardboard box to do it with. They provide us with the mailers, and there is an online portal in order for if we need another box to order a new box from. So I went ahead and requested for those materials to be sent to the 851 building here, and that they can, it's kind of like a welcome packet that gets set up. So once we get that kind of figured out, I figure it literally looks like the same sort of box that we have out for the Lions Club for the eyeglasses. It's the same sort of thing. There's instructions for the resident on there on what to do with their battery, what is accepted, what's not accepted. One of the things that the Call to Recycle program does do is that if something does get dropped off that's not accepted by them, they still handle the disposal of it. So even if they don't figure it out, they figure out who can come and pick up the battery. So it works out pretty well.
Somebody leaves a car battery?
Yeah, exactly. They figure those things out. They did recommend that we not put it outside because then we get everything. Yeah, exactly. The other thing is that I did have a conversation last 2 weeks ago with the ChargePoint network. They actually are one of the largest electric vehicle charging station manufacturers in the United States. They currently have an installation here in Celebration. For those that don't know, it's actually behind Mirasol. They have a ChargePoint station that is available for their residents as well as to anyone within the ChargePoint network as well. Talk to them about sort of how pricing works with them, who actually pays for it, is it a municipality, what's a subscription, all that sort of stuff. And they said that they were going to kind of put together an overview proposal on what it is. She did state when I spoke with her that it's normally a municipality that approaches them just because of easements and that sort of thing where it comes into, but they do have homeowners associations that come in and do it, and it can be seen as a profit center for us as well if we wanted to, because you can recoup the cost of the electricity charge.
Yeah, we would have to deal with CDD with this in many cases.
If we were to put it on CDD property, yes.
Yeah.
She did, she pulled up Google while we were doing it and looked at like Lakeside and this building and that sort of thing, and she said, you could work something out to be able to do it, but she said in most cases these would be a destination charger. So it's something that someone is going to, and most of the times that we have a destination here, this parking lot's closed. If we're doing food truck event or something like that. But she did say there's ways to do it, and then there's also some financing that's available that they can do, like grant money that's not specific to a government. So it's available to a business.
Our biggest challenge in that whole thing is finding a place to put them.
I think we can put it in front of Paul's house.
Yeah, there you go.
So
good luck finding a parking spot.
All right, very good. All right, how about
Can I add one more item to number 6? And I haven't had a chance to talk to Eric about this because I just had the conversation yesterday, but we met with John Biziano, who's the leader of Troop 155, 125, one of the Boy Scout groups. And he asked about volunteer opportunities, and I told him, we were looking at some recycling options and helped pick up some of the water bottles and things like that around the fields. And he is working on an initiative where some big companies, Under Armour, Reebok, those types of companies are looking at recycling plastic water bottles into fibers that they are utilizing for a new type of clothing. So he's going to get me some more contact information, and I'll be talking a little bit more about that.
We're actually, the Knights are actually in a campaign right now for shoes, where any kind of shoe, they'll chop it up and use the shoe for repaving highways and stuff
cool.
like that. Yeah.
So we can repave Celebration Boulevard?
Fill it with Crocs. Yeah.
All right. Cool. Tim, how about goal number 7? You got anything there?
The only thing that I really want to do, and I'm kind of waiting now for my replacement over at the terraces, but I want to see if I can get all of the property managers at the condos together this summer when it's quiet, when there's no no residents around hardly, and see if we can't meet and talk about some general stuff about, covenants and best practices and all that kind of stuff. So.
Okay. Paul, I got goal number 4.
We got a good update on that. I'm really excited about how the group, if anybody saw the RFP for the tennis,
Yeah.
I thought that was just outstanding. So so they are really, I think if the other RFPs are like that, I'm really excited about real, improvements in our youth programs here. So on the other thing I wanted to point out, number 5, is that we met with Todd and Steve about the landscape contract, and that's another area that Todd is really taking a different approach to the landscape contract. If you think about it, for us, we've got, with the service areas, it's really sort of more of a residential type of landscape kind of business with a lot of, and then we have our Bermuda, which is a very, that is very different than managing the St. Augustine, temperamental and all that stuff. So he's, and it takes different expertise to do those. And so he's looking at making some pretty dramatic changes in how we contract that out. So that bid it's coming up at the end of the year, right? So so that you're going to see some stuff on that. So I think it's a really good approach to our landscaping.
Okay. Cool. All right, as far as goal number 1, building strategic partnerships with county, city, and community schools and districts, I spent a lot of time with the CDD, and I think things are moving along. I think the Civic Quarter should be coming along very nicely shortly. Also went to CJC meetings and Canoa meetings, so I've seen a lot of meetings recently. Been trying to get hold of our county commissioner, and Lee Moore and I would both like to meet with her, but she is so busy, you can't get an appointment before June sometime. So that's about that.
June's better than nothing.
Yeah. And I would tack on, as far as the CROA Facilities Master Plan, we've come up with, 15 different iterations of the Civic Quarter Plan. Hopefully we'll get something going in the next month or so, and CDD and CROA will have a joint venture into the Civic Quarter. Okay. Sounds good. So, other than that, any other items you want to add on? Then I would hear a motion.
I move to adjourn.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Second that.
Thank you, gentlemen.
I like to see my name in print. That's not bad. It's not.
It was the Tim and
Not prefaced
last
with,
minute.
not prefaced with a 4-letter word.
Yeah, right.
I figure if I motion, I'll just keep things moving.
Guys, thanks a lot. I appreciate coming and doing this, because
Well, that's what we get paid for. That's what we get paid for,
Doing
Jack.
what?
Yeah.
Having a quorum, it was like you had to beg people to have a quorum.
$100,000 a year salary. That's right. You're getting you're getting about $95,000 for this, right?
Oh, I negotiated.
That's what I do.